I was born disabled. My mom gave birth at 5.5 months, so I weighed 1 pound. I was like really tiny. I was like a naked mole rat from Little Kim Possible. It was not cute. And so I think what was interesting about my disability was I would fall a lot. So I would, like any child falls, like that's normal, right? Like you play outside, you fall, you beat up your knees. But for me, it was like every 2 steps, I was like, oh, you know, I fell down. And I just remember thinking to myself, the biggest memory I have as a child was wanting to ride my grandpa's big bike, my abuelo's bike. And all my little cousins were doing it. And my grandpa didn't want me to do it because he was afraid that I was going to really fall because, you know, being disabled, I didn't have as much control of my legs and my balance was really awful. But one day he decided to let me do it anyways because I begged him, I said, come on, abuelo, everyone else is doing it, why can't I do it? You know, and there's a lot of us. There's 15, 16 cousins total, and the first generation cousins. So he felt like, well, if these 10 can do it, then he has to at least try. And so he let me do it and I fell. And I remember crying and getting my knees banged up. But I just remember my cousins and my mom really treating me in a sense that like, get back up. And so when I went to disabled preschool, everyone had disability. So when we had to get pulled out for physical therapy, it wasn't like I was an odd one out. I was just like everyone else. And it wasn't until I got to New Jersey and went to grammar school that I became the freak, the crippled, when I became the one that had to be in special ed because of my physical disability, right? Although I was totally mentally fine in being in mainstream education. And so I think what I learned from my childhood was that it was far less important to fit in than it was to be yourself. And while I didn't have a choice about my birth and my disability, it really taught me that I could be resilient. And they say that premature babies tend to be the most resilient type of people out there because from the moment that we take our first breath, we have to know what struggle is to survive. And being gender non-conforming as a Latino in America, in the East Coast, is no easy thing. And I think what keeps me going and keeps my head held high and my strut fierce and my sway, you know, rural Latino flavor is that I see people all around me who dare to live their truth. I see it when I speak at Harvard, when I speak at NYU. I see it when I'm back in Patterson talking to the youth in my high school. People who hear gunshots and duck. I see it in their bravery every day. I was 14 years old when I came out as gay. I didn't become gender non-conforming until college. But now there's like 10-year-olds coming out as trans or gender non-conforming or gay. I didn't have their courage. But what I had was a strong sense that even if I fell, I could always get back up. You know, growing up disabled, I always felt angry because it was just like I didn't really have a choice in that matter. So when I came out the closet as gay and when my gender nonconforming started in college, my mother, a Latina, a Boricua at that, just thought it was a choice I made. That she could understand why I was crippled because I was born that way. But somehow being gay and gender nonconforming and wearing makeup and heels was a choice I made to like piss her off. But it wasn't. It's like all about being authentic. It just morphed. It became, I was living in college and the first time I ever wore a pair of women's jeans or skinny jeans was Valentine's Day 2009. I was still in high school. And once I got to college, I really started to become more comfortable wearing clothing that was gendered for women, but being a man and still feeling like a man and like I am a man. And I think a big part of being Latino and being proud is this idea that like machismo is a big part of who we are. It frames our manhood. And so how can I still be a man who wears makeup and nails and high heels and dresses and skirts? And so what I realized was that like my manhood, I had to define it for myself. And I really was inspired by Audre Lorde. And she talked about her son. You know, Audre Lorde is a black feminist scholar, lesbian. And she had a son. And she said that she wanted her son to define his own manhood. And that in college is when I realized I can define my own manhood. I don't have to be the Puerto Rican men I saw growing up, the womanizers, the players, the drug dealers, the gangbangers, you know, the abusive men that I saw growing up in my life in the hood. I didn't have to be like them. I could be a proud Boricua man who wears high heels and makeup. I can be all of that and still be a man. And I had to define that for myself. I had to take a lot of courage and like comfortability in my own skin. Like just like I had to get accustomed to being disabled, I had to get accustomed to being in this skin of mine, in this body of mine. And I just feel like, you know, I was born under the way I was born because I was meant to be resilient. And the one thing I know about being gender non-conforming and being Latino and being gay is that resiliency is not a choice for me. It's an act of survival. So I think gender non-conforming can mean different things for anyone. I think for me, I like to define it for myself. For some people, gender non-conforming can mean that they don't identify with any gender and that they're beyond the gender binary of man, woman. For me, sometimes gender non-conforming is like an umbrella or put in the trans umbrella, but I don't identify as transgender because while my gender expression is different, I have no desire to take any hormones or any surgery procedures or change anything physiologically with my body. I think a big part of being trans, whether you get surgery or not, is that you feel a desire to shift something. There's nothing I want to shift. Like my gender nonconformity is not about shifting my body or my gender. It's about performance. You know, gender is about performance. As a Latino, you know, a big part of our personality, our culture is about how we perform our gender. You know what I'm saying? Like the big gold hoops, the curves, the way we do things form-fitted, the swagger in our walk, the sway in our hips when we dance our cultural music. You know, all these things that make us who we are, that our gender is a performance. And so I choose not to perform my gender in a way that's abusive towards women, in a way that abuses drugs or alcohol, in a way that depicts violence and like womanization and like machismo culture where I'm the man of the household. I am the man of the household. I was the only son my mother had. And her son happens to wear high heels sometimes and makeup. I was 16 years old when I started formal dance training. So a year later, I started my own dance company. Because what happened was, at the time, I knew I wouldn't have an opportunity to dance because I was disabled. Back then, especially in New Jersey, there's no other company that's like my company here, right, who does contemporary modern work. And so I started my company at 17. One of the original choreographers is actually here in the building. She set work on us. She was the first choreographer that ever trained me on how to be in a dance piece outside of high school. And I remember bringing in like 6 or 7 guest choreographers for our first show. And I was the only disabled dancer at the time in the company. And I created it for myself. And within the first year, I quickly learned that it was larger than me, that there were other disabled people out there, both black, brown, and white, who needed opportunities. And so we grew, and 6 years later, we're finally having our New York City dance concert premiere here in downtown Brooklyn. And it feels surreal, like growing up in the hood, growing up poor, growing up in a single mother household, being Latino, where like this stuff isn't encouraged for men to be dancers and wear tights and, you know, be a sissy, as they would say, un pendejo, right? But that my cousin, being a man, a Latino, bought my first dance clothes and said, I want you to pursue this, this is your passion. He stepped up and became a father figure in that moment, right? And so I started pursuing dance with such a passion. And I grew, and I had amazing professional opportunities. And 6 years now with my dance company, I've gotten to work with people like Stacey Tukey, who's Emmy nominated from So You Can Dance. I've got to work with Tice Diorio, Chadwick Hall, and so many other amazing artists that otherwise I would have never met. And what I love about my dance company is that these people are not only my dancers, but they're really my friends. We build a space where everyone can be themselves, whether they're disabled, whether they're plus size, whether they're black, brown, whether they have a lot of dance experience or not. It's about creating a space of authenticity. Like, I can be myself, they can be themselves. We work hard, we motivate each other, we support each other, we challenge each other. These dancers are my family. You know, we spent 2 months in rehearsal for 2 nights of a performance. I've grown to love these people. They've become my anchors. Whenever I thought about giving up on the dance company because it's hard running a nonprofit with no money and, you know, being poor and investing all of my energy and time and money into this project, you know, they keep me grounded. And seeing Michelle, you know, one of my dancers with a disability who uses a crutch, like seeing her and knowing that I'm giving her this opportunity and I've given so many other disabled dancers opportunities, that is why I do it. Because if not me, then who? If not now, then when? I'm the only Latino in the US, the youngest Latino in the US, the youngest person of color, to have my own artistically directed company that's integrated. Most of these companies are run by white women who are middle-aged. So what does that mean for Latinos to grow both politically and socially in our power? That means that we take on positions of leadership and we show our families that we can be gay and gender non-conforming, artistic, and successful.